Can I start, Doctor?
Yes, you can. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for attention. Thank you for our students. Our presentation today about contract infrastructure project. حيدر لازم باي حيدر لازم نبأ صابر شيماء علي حميد صبا مالي صالح. Another slide, please. Another slide. Okay. Now we introduce us abstract. There has been a growing trend in recent years for government in many developing countries to place major public investment, particularly for infrastructure projects, into the private sector. This has meant the governments look to private sector to finance projects using the project anticipate revenue as a security rather than relying upon the direct sovereign guarantee of the project debt. Many have adopted both operate transfer or boot a project so that the private sector have to operate the plant and transfer the ownership to the government after specified concession period. However, for good to success in any major privatized project, the host government cannot withdraw or adopt a possessive rule. It has ensured the right political and commercial environment in which advance the project. This research deals with the various guarantees and incentive that could be provided by the government and turned out in Iraq and other countries, creating favorable investment environment and then in project quality, public satisfaction, and national development. And it is covered the responsibility and undertaking that the project sponsor could not be committed in order to negotiate favorable concession for the government and the rise financing. The so vital for the boot model to be successful. The financing political of technical risk are discussed and the techniques that could be used to have this risk covered as suggested to ensure a smooth project implementation. Next slide, please. If we can see here in the introduction, the infrastructure project, communally large project, which are usually performed by government or by private sector participation. If we can see that in table 1 data. Bulk operating transfer scheme now by boot can be considered as one of the private sector involvement method to take action on infrastructure project, especially in developing countries. Boot has gained priority now with the private sector financing, designing, establishing, operating, and maintaining the project, and then transferring it to the government after the concession period. The acquisition of this project under the boot concept is very complex, sophisticated, risky, and ultimately costly. Since the possibility of the implementing such project on the basis of the consultants' opening of the visibility studies prepared expensive take time and a major effort of the project may be not success to or subject to loss due to risks surrounding this project. This paper or this research will examine the networks of the contractor relationship and responsibility among main parties involved in good project. And we can see it in figure 1 and later. Particularly the project sponsor, contractor, and host government. It will focus on the risk and securities of the such scams during the construction and operation phases and just solution for a successful project implementation. Here, in this table, current good project, we can see many countries like China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Australia, Thailand, Turkey, and the joint venture between United Kingdom and France and United Kingdom. Implementation many type of projects like power station, tunnel, road, water supply, expressway, power plant, and so on. And we can see in another column the various costs of this project and various concessions period for this project between 9 and 30, maybe 30 years. And this is date of completion. Another slide, please. Another slide. Okay. Project sponsor. Project sponsor it can be linked with the host government, banks, contractors, stakeholders. Another slide, please. If we can see here, and this is background, it was reported that Turgut Özal, as a former Prime Minister of Turkey, first coined the term port in the use of Project Port in Turkey in 1984 as a part of the Turkish privatization program. However, the philosophy and the origin of root and BOO, bolt-on operated scams, can be traced back to the privately financed Flemish Canal and Bridge in 17th century. This is privately funded as operated trend related to infrastructure for the transportation people and raw material following the Industrial Revolution. And the French concession contract, for example, to supply drinking water to Paris in the 18th century. The Suez Canal, Trans-Siberian Railway and companies in the United States, which are mostly on BOO basis without the need to transfer back to the utilities. The turned of good approach. The turned good approach in Iraq. It is very important here to read or to consist this topic in this research. Iraq suffered years of neglects, embargo, wars, and insurgency that has severely affected its infrastructure in most sectors, such as water, power, transportation, and so on. On regulations of this need, the Ministry of Electricity would like to promote the participation of the private sector in generating electricity through the adoption of BOO plans. The Ministry of Electricity communicated a tender resulting of the signing of the contractor with the 5 potential visitors to added 1,250 megawatts of new energy. However, progress has been stalled. Globally, research and implementation in the boat delivery systems have direct several effective way in the large private sector funds the technical innovation, managerial skills, and operational efficiency, and develop public infrastructure. However, many countries and origin lack boot experience. The boot concept works well in Hong Kong with a special reference to the 5 tunnel that have applied to it. Another slide, please. Major participation in both project structure. In general, projects are a long life projects such as boot. Therefore, it has also demanded that the political and the government system must be stable enough to ensure repayment of visitors to reduce their financial risk. Contractor arrangement between these parties on risk assessment can be complex. Number of elements which must meet together to ensure the success of this project. The key stakeholders of project of this boat are host government or principal and consortium of project company, sponsor, construction contractor, operation and maintenance contractor, financial or landing institute member, utility visitor, suppliers, and finally end user.
Okay, I finish now. Continue.
Yes, now continue with another student, Shayman.
Okay, you can. Okay.
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning. Please continue.
Good morning for other students who to come. The concept of boot private finance initiative, PFI, or any other privatization scheme have been attracting both government and the private sector all over the world in recent decades. There are many kinds of infrastructure, such as roads, tollways, bridges, harbors, railway, power station, tunnel, water supply, expressway, and power plant, etc. In general, it is considered that a government or a public sector is required to intervene in the provision of these infrastructures, or in many cases they themselves invest for and operate the facilities. The reasons for the intervention by government are the initial investment is tremendously large, so normally it is too much for the private sector. These facilities can serve for a so long-term period. Once they are provided that they need to take a long term to recover investment. The service provided by those facilities tend to be in monopoly stations, while demand for the service is relatively high. The price of the service tends to be probably high unless the government intervenes to some extent properly. In many cases, it is difficult to collect a fee or toll from the service users. The tax and duties are the most practical manner for service pricing. These facilities bring about external benefits together with internal benefits. In other words, they provide benefits not only directly to the service users, but also indirectly to people outside, such as those who work in the industry and the society. Moreover, these external benefits are considerably large in infrastructure projects. These facilities require large amount of land acquisition, which is very difficult for the private sector without appropriate assistance by the government. In a strict sense, BOOT is just one of the schemes for privately financed infrastructures. However, the term BOOT is often used to imply a private financed project scheme. The following schemes are presented as alternative for privately financed infrastructure project. BOOT, build, own, operate, transfer, build, own, operate, BOO, build, operate, and renewal of concession, design, build, finance, operate, design, construct, manage, and finance, build, lease, or rent, transfer, lease, renovate, operate, transfer, build, transfer, operate, rehabilitate, own, and operate, rehabilitate, own, and transfer, modernize, own, operate, and transfer, and build and transfer. BOOT project phases. The 5 phases of typical BOOT project are pre-investment, implementation, construction, operation, and transfer. Figure 2, we will see it later. The roles and responsibilities of this project sponsor at each phase of the project can be as follows. Number 1, as consultant to carry out the feasibility study during the pre-investment phase and engineering design during the implementation phase. Number 2, as project number 2, negotiation favorable concession agreement from the government and as a project promoter to raise quality and borrow lands during the implementation phase. Number 3, as a contractor to build the facility, usually on a fixed price turnkey basis during the construction phase. Number 4, as operator and owner of the facility, using the project revenue to retire the loan during the operation phase. In this picture, we will see figure 2. We have typical BOOT project phases. We have a pre-investment, implementation, construction, operation, and transfer. In pre-investment, we can see visible study, and in implementation, we can see engineering and design, concession agreement, and project financing. In construction, we can see only construction. In operation, we can see sale of products, tool collection, operation and maintenance, loan payment, and finally we can see in a transfer of our ownership go out. Application of BOOT type scheme. To data such BOOT type scheme have been used in power, water supply, transport, telecommunication, and process plant sector. Agreed for favorable investment environment. Number 1, win-win principle. The government in developing countries must address 2 critical aspects in using foreign investment through BOOT scheme to develop infrastructure projects. One is to successfully attract foreign funds to infrastructure development projects that are particularly needed in their countries. The other is to ensure that the project be developed efficiently to provide an expectable service to the public. So, win-win solutions for both the private and the public interest are needed for successful BOOT-based infrastructure development. Number 2, educate legal and regulatory framework. The willingness of the private sector to develop infrastructure projects depends very much on the legal environment where the project operates. To sector participation in infrastructure development, the government has to develop a legal and regulatory framework, as well as financial environment, conducive to investment and attractive to foreign investors. An educate legal framework implies that BOOT developers can structure a construction vehicle that will be compatible with that country's law. Each water project has a project-specific concession agreement between government and concessionaire. Number 3, political environment. There should be a central high-powered authority overseeing, if not in charge of both projects. There may be a divergent objective between national and provincial municipal governments or among different government departments. This authority is needed to coordinate and concessional conflict where necessary, and to addressing issues with which the individual participants in a water project are not capable of dealing in a solution. Government's perspective need to shift from the traditional regulatory stance to a liberal and dynamic outlook that can synergize with the best strength from a private enterprise. Number 4, state credibility. The incumbent government has the sovereign right to commit that state to a policy pledge. However, the selection period of both projects usually exceed the term of office of the government. Sponsor and financier need to have faith in the continuation of the original concession agreement. After any change of government shall revocation of the concession agreement may cause very unfavorable effect on the private sector interest and confidence in investing in that country. Number 5, developing domestic capital markets. Compared to developed countries usually look better capital market. Strong domestic capital market will enable the private developers and investors to borrow money for non-recourse project financing from financial institutions and eventually to float off the project on local stock market. Number 6, competitive bidding. Government should adopt more competitive bidding trending protocol for both projects to achieve obtain efficiency and facilitate the selection of the most suitable developers. The evaluation of both protocols should also be conducted in a transparent environment to ensure fair competition and avoid a criticism of sponsor selection or political favoritism to the tender cost for both projects are much higher than a traditional project. Number 7, land acquisition. Land acquisition is a complicated issue in many water projects, and complex procedures often need to be followed. Many projects are delayed and some are dropped due to the land acquisition problem. Number 8, option of government guarantees. To further promote private sector involvement in water projects, the government may identify and provide flexible project-specific guarantees against economic risk. The following are various options that may be considered to contract some of the risk that may otherwise discourage prospective investors. Number 1, minimum revenue stream guarantees, foreign exchange guarantees, reputation of procedures revenue, guarantees against high inflation and interest rate, offshore escrow account, tax holidays, tax relief and expansion relaxation of tax of imported materials and equipment, government input component into budget equity, government competition of exchange occur in the current amount monetary laws or new regulation affecting the investment, extension of concession period in case of force majeure, subordinated loan and emergency loan facilities, property development right and authorization of extent facilities, trust tools adjustment mechanism, no scant competitive facility guarantee, guarantees of raw material supply, example, coal, water, etc., guarantees of product purchase, example, electricity, water, etc. Thank you, Doctor. Now I finish, and Mr. Haider Ibrahim should be continue. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Haider, please present faster because we don't have enough time. Okay, thank you.
Project equality, public satisfaction, and national development. The foregoing discussion indicates that some minimal governmental guarantees against political, commercial, and financial risks of private investors are needed in addition to a favorable investment environment in order to promote private sector finance of infrastructure projects. However, private sector investment do not automatically lead to success infrastructure projects achieving quality, efficiency, and good service to the public. Furthermore, the right balance should be achieved. Governmental support without making it too easy for the private sector at the expense of the public. If BOT schemes are not well structured, natural resources in developing countries could be wasted and depleted by the project promoters. The notion that the private sector is more efficient, that the state can only be supported in situations of vigorous competition and a free market principle that tends to be conspicuously absent in the case of public infrastructure projects. When private developers are provided with too many subsidies, guarantees, and protection against competition, there is no evidence the efficiency gains will be made. The government should be proactively involved and retain a dynamic role in the whole project development process, including project identification, feasibility request for the proposals, evaluation of proposals, tender negotiation, franchise award, checking of design and construction quality, and continuous monitoring of project operation, performance, and service quality. Another page, please. 1. Feasibility study considerations. Development countries should usually have short-term and long-term infrastructure development programs, outlining the scope and priorities of future infrastructure projects in the context of their particular financial strengths and weaknesses. The governments can determine what proportion of infrastructure facilities and what projects need to be developed by mobilizing private sector funds when a project is intended to be developed through a BOT scheme. The government should carry out a pre-feasibility and then a feasibility study to assess applicability of the BOT approach to a specific project, social, political, and environmental impacts, as well as a financial, economic, and technical viability should be evaluated carefully. Indirect costs or external costs, such as unfavorable environmental impacts and social dislocations, this result should be fully assessed. 2. Selection of the most suitable private partner BOT concessionaires. The crucial issue of success of a BOT type project lies in the selection of the most suitable private partner, the choosing concessionaire. This can be realized through a competitive tendering process. Comparison, identification of a project, philosophy and objective, tender qualification, evaluation of tender proposals, negotiation and award of the concession, further identify the distinguished winning elements DWS from among the three identified sub-factors of CSFS. 1. Technical solution advantage. 2. Financial package differentiation and differentiation in guarantees. 3. Continuous assessment of project success. A public-private partnership is established through the concession agreement after the most suitable private partner is identified. The government should be involved in the whole procurement process by taking an active part in the project team. For example, in SEALs to aid treatment facilities, DBO, Design Build Operate Scheme, a project team was established comprising water quality, engineering and policy, and administrative leadership in SEAL. SBU. In addition, special skills were added with representative of the city council staff, mayor's office, and other independent technical, legal, and financial advisors. The project team continuously monitors project progress, maintains timely and productive team communication and discussion of quality control and quality assurance measures. Risk and return characteristics. Since these projects are often structured using the undertaking and guarantees of different parties to achieve the equivalent of a financial credit, it is essential that the sponsors thoroughly review the different credit exposure which occurs at different times of the project. There are, however, distinct difference between the risk and return characteristics of infrastructure and industrial project, table 2. In table 2, characteristic concession period in infrastructure, typical 30 year. In industrial, 10 to 15 years. Construction period, 4 to 8 years. In industrial, 1 to 3 years, etc. The rule of interest will form a significant part of the overall cost to be financed. Figure 3. In figure 3 shows that the cost of the project begins with an increase in the first year of the project, and the increase continues throughout the construction period and until reaching the operating stage, in which the cost begins to decrease until it reaches zero in the stage of transfer. Risk management in BOT projects. Risk management in BOT projects is situated following the risk management framework, i.e. risk identification, risk classification, risk analysis, risk attitude, and risk response or risk allocation. One, risk identification in BOT projects. The risks of BOT projects can be identified in the following categories: political risks, construction completion risks, operation risks, finance risk, and legal risks. Two, risk classification in BOT projects. There have been several types of risk classification. The following are some examples of them. One, construction phase, completion delay, cost overrun, force majeure, political risk, infrastructure risk, referring to other facilities and indirect competition with the BOT project in question. Two, operational phase, raw material supply, market performance, technical operation, maintenance, foreign exchange, other continuous. Three, development phase, technology risk, credit risk, bid risk. Four, operating phase, performance risk, cost overrun risk, liability risk, equity reserve risk, of-tech risks. Global risk, political, government technology, legal framework type of agreement, commercial market input currency, environment, impact, ecological. Elemental risks, technical, physical conditions, construction, design, technology. Operation, maintenance, training. Financial, form of financing, evaluation, ownership, return, currency. Revenue, demand, toll, or tariff, development. There are some other classification, some of which are static or dynamic, fundamental or particular, government source or private source, speculative or pure, financial or non-financial, and measurable or immeasurable. Three, risk analysis in BOT projects. The reasons of risk analysis in BOT projects are summarized as follows. Rigorous risk analysis is necessary before a project is embarked upon in order to establish its financial and technical feasibility. It can help to screen out financial unsound projects and get means working together early enough to overcome foreseen technical difficulties.
Now, thank you for Mr. Haider. Now, about risk analysis to parties in BOT projects. This section discusses risk analysis from the standpoint of major project participants, host governments, founder, and the project company. The figure below, we can show the level of the identification in BOT projects. Second page. Possible delay. Now, with possible delay incurs BOT project. This section explains how to identify the possible delay cause for BOT project review. General cause of the candidate cause considered in the various BOT implementation stage. Now we show the first literature review of general delay. Cause of schedule delay when using traditional delay system in different countries have received considered attention. Investigation 28 delay cause from the large construction project with a traditional type of contractor in Georgia and ranked the delay cause by relative importance IDTX with calculate by normalization weighted frequency value. The identified delay cause include number 1, indicate contractor experience. Number 2, financing and payment of complete work. Number 3, owner interference for labor supply and the end subcontractors. The identified top 5 delay cause including later delivery or slow mobilization. Number 2, damaged material. Number 3, poor planning for equipment breakdown and improved equipment. The study attributes major cause of project delay. Number 1, financing by contract during construction. Delay in contractor payment by owner, design change by owner, his agent during construction, negation or signing of concession agreement. Number 5, design, construction, operation, and transfer. BOT implementation stage. Also BB, public-private participation. Model is very implementation procedure. Some stage of BB remain the same, indicated that the stage for successful implementation in BOT projects are feasibility. Number 1, feasibility. Study and implementation plan. Number 2, analysis on submission of application. Number 3, evaluation and selection. This is the end of research, and now summary and conclusion from the research. Summary and conclusion. Infrastructure projects are usually large projects and implemented by government. For many reasons, government cannot proceed with their implementation, the most important of which are economic and political. Therefore, government resorts a nodal method, which is the construction, operation, transfer, BOT gap. Government must provide the properties condition for the success of the state contractor because they are often fraught with. Through the research, we can identify the history background of TAPE projects and choose the operator of the BOT in different countries of work, and thus identify the reason of the success and potential failure of such a project. The research also showed the trend of BOT in Iraq, as well as review that main participation in TAPE of contractor, namely the government, concessions, construction and operation contractor, maintenance, and land financial situation, equally participating investor, supplier, and the end users. There are many projects that government cannot implement, such as road, port, railway, bridgeway, power tunnel, shower, supply, expressway, etc. In general, in this investment, such projects of high cost, so the gates sector cannot meet its financial without the participation of financier, and there are costs type of investor project funded by private sector such as BOT. Overcoming social, political, legal, and environmental difference and obstacle finding operator framework. This providing approach political reassurance factor for financial and the investor and the credibility of state of finding TAPE opportunities in fair opportunity in competitive bidding, facilities, land equation, and over government financial situation the project cannot with investor. In order to ensure the quality of properties in BOT, a soil properties feasibility study must be provided as well as choose the most obligation part for the government and suitable consideration by the all standards. The government must.
According to the time, we cannot enough time to complete this one. Please go to the last page. Go to the last page and speak about that. Okay.
Continue. Just this is the last page.
No, because then The time is not enough.
Yes. Page
What is the last
research.
page?
This now is the last.
No, end of the
Research
pages.
provide
The page. How many pages left?
this at the end on the last the other page is reference lecture.
Okay. To continue. Okay.
The research presents some detailed research for the delay and the special calculation method, those like traditional method using SPSS program and using the SEM structure equation models, and show the extent of regularity in each of the traditional methods and others. At the end, thank you for attention, Doctor.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Reference.
Okay, for today is enough, and next group is group 7. Group 7, please present it in next session, because today I don't have enough time to continue, and inshallah we'll continue the presentation in next session, inshallah. Mr. Sina, you should present your research in next session, inshallah. Okay, thank you for presentation. And see you in next session, inshallah. Fi amanillah. Khuda Hafiz. Bye.